Hello and welcome to the In the Money YouTube channel. One of the most popular things we do all year long is check in with this dynamic duo around Kentucky Derby time. I speak of NBC's Randy Moss and Jerry Bailey. Gentlemen, how are you?
Busy.
Busy. Yeah, we're a little shell shocked as we always are right about now, but we'll be ready.
Well, let's dive right in. We do have a little bit of business to take care of first. And the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, is getting in the NBC plugs. Where can folks watch Kentucky Derby coverage this weekend, or where can they go to find out that information?
I just know it's on Peacock, I think starting at 1 o'clock on Friday, and it's on Peacock and NBC on Saturday.
It'll be also on some other ancillary NBC networks. So check your local listings. We will be there. We're actually doing 16 races on television Friday and Saturday. Every stakes race.
That's
on
great.
both, plus an allowance race.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
On Saturday.
Well, the Peacock tip is a really good one. If you haven't gotten around to getting that wherever you get your streaming services, etc., you should just do that and then check local listings if you want to watch on another type of device. Let's dive right into the Kentucky Oaks Friday night. We've got a favorite here in the form of Good Cheer. Gentlemen, I'll tell you what, I looked at this race and, I'm a figure-oriented player, and I didn't see the massive edge in figures that made me want to be a wise guy here. And then the more I watched the races, the more I looked at the shape of this race, I couldn't be a wise guy. I circled all the way back to the horse I wanted to try to beat in the first place, Good Cheer. What do you guys think about this favorite? Randy, is she a horse that you are with or against in the Kentucky Oaks?
For the reasons you just delineated about the numbers, in my opinion, from a betting perspective, she is not a good bet at the price that she's going to be. It's the classic handicapping dilemma. Do you believe the data that you see on paper, or do you believe your lying eyes? And when you watch her races, it's like, wow. I mean, she has quick turn of foot. She blows the races apart. She beats the competition. She's never been in a dogfight, and her numbers are not any better than Quiet Side, Simply Joking, 5G. So I think she's a good favorite to try to take a shot against. I think Jerry may disagree.
Somewhat. I mean, the number I concentrate mostly on is the one on the far right-hand column, and they're all ones. She wins, and she wins, and she wins, and it happens to be a wet track, which it might. She only won by 17 lengths on a sloppy track. So I don't see any discernible weaknesses, but she could be beaten. I mean, I like a filly called Quiet Side from the outside. She's really coming into good form. Her trainer, John Ortiz, told us going into the Honeybee she would improve, and then she did again into the Fantasy, and he's been right on with her. I think she gets a great stalking trip. The post is not going to be a problem for her, and I think she could get first run on Good Cheer and not be caught.
Now, we also can't leave out Simply Joking. The race is not going to develop for her, we think, in the same way that her most recent races did, where she set the pace. They're looking right now to get one of those trips where she's kind of in the pocket, right? Like La Cara. Mark Cassidy, the trainer of La Cara, has already thrown down the gauntlet to the field and said, we're going to the lead. And then you've got 5G also with some speed. So Simply Joking could be sitting in the pocket. She could be right behind a speed duel in a good spot. Whit Beckman says that he thinks she can settle off the pace. What trainer ever says that his horse can't settle off the pace? They all say that.
But in her very first race, she broke slowly.
Sprinting, yes.
And did come from behind. So that gives you a little confidence that she can do it.
Yeah. I kind of compare, not directly. I think she's better. But I kind of compare the Oaks situation to Wet Paint and Godolphin, right? Who was winning, but her numbers indicated that she just really wasn't, all that great, and she was a favorite worth taking a shot against. And the numbers bore out when you got to the Kentucky Oaks. So I'm kind of curious to see how Good Cheer runs.
Is Simply Joking your idea of a selection, Randy, or are you waiting and people will watch the broadcast to get your official pick?
I'm with Jerry. I think Quiet Side is probably the horse to beat in there. Well, the horse to take if you're looking for a better price than Good Cheer and you think Good Cheer's beatable. But Simply Joking can't be ignored in the exotics.
There you go. We're going to get to Kentucky Derby in just a second. I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund, racing in Kentucky on an incredible upward trajectory thanks to their work. It's not just Derby weekend. You want to be paying attention to racing in Kentucky, full-on year-round circuit. Learn more about the KTDF in themoneypodcast.com/KTDF. Boys, Kentucky Derby. A lot of people are positioning this race as journalism and everybody else. Jerry Bailey, is that the correct framing of the race in terms of the larger discussion?
As the field stands presently, yes. If Baeza gets in, it changes somewhat.
And we both think Baeza will probably get in with all the veterinary scrutiny nowadays with HISA and Kentucky state vets. And trust us, Pete, we've been around talking to all the trainers, and there's a lot of hand-wringing going on right now with the veterinary situation here. So I think the odds are that one of these horses at a minimum is probably going to be withdrawn. We don't have any inside information on that, but that's just playing the percentages.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I think we both think journalism and Baeza
Pretty close.
would be in a top tier by themselves, and then the others. The main thing I'm worried about, I don't know if Jerry's as worried as I am. Umberto Rispoli has never been in a Kentucky Derby. I'm a little worried that journalism may wind up too close to the pace. And the pace looks like on paper it's going to be really quick. And to me, that's my primary concern. But I think he's 2-3 lengths better than the field right now.
Okay, but Randy, you also have a concern that with all the speed on paper, that Citizen Bull from the inside has a slim chance of going to the lead and everybody else saying, there's too much speed, let's not chase him, and carrying a gate to wire.
Yeah.
So in that case, the pace wouldn't be all that fast, and journalism probably would be a little closer correctly.
I think it's going to be fast regardless. But if there's one horse in the race that has a chance to get clear early, if there's one horse in the race that has any chance to go wire to wire, it's Citizen Bull. He's faster than Rodriguez, period, paragraph. He's faster than Owen Almighty, and they don't want Owen Almighty on the lead anyway.
True.
We talked to Brendan Walsh about East Avenue, and Brendan tried to convince Jerry that East Avenue can be just as good stalking as he is on the lead.
No, he can't.
So you add all that up, and as Bob Baffert told us this morning, there is no plan B with Citizen Bull. It's go, go, go. And I think, personal opinion, pace figures, I think he's faster than East Avenue, even if East Avenue's sent. So, the pace is going to be hot. I think it's probably going to be too hot for him to go wire to wire. But, I'm expecting him to be the pace primarily.
Jerry, you had some agreements and disagreements while Randy was talking about the pace scenario specifically. Who do you think will be the best speed in the Kentucky Derby, regardless of who ends up first on the wire?
I think, first of all, Citizen Bull is the fastest horse. I agree with Randy. He's the pace guy, and I'll defer to him on that. But I don't think there's any chance in hell that he hangs around at the end. There's just too much pressure that he'll get throughout the race. Not just the first quarter. I mean, they're going to pick it up all the way down the backside. I don't think he hangs around. So I do think there'll be a fast pace. I don't share. Well, let's put it this way. The thing that would get journalism beat is if he gets caught up or moves too quickly into a fast pace. But I think the rider Rispoli is aware of that, and being aware of it's half the battle. So he's just got to hold his nerves together.
Let's drill down on that, because we have the probably single best person in the world to talk about traveling around the world and winning big races and what kind of pressure that puts on you. So, Jerry, how much of a mental challenge do you think this is going to be for a rider like Rispoli, who's won some of the biggest races in the world, but hasn't done it on a stage like the Kentucky Derby? Because, frankly, there is no stage like the Kentucky Derby. Is this a concern at all, what Randy brought up about Umberto?
It's a slight concern, but, we won't know until we see the race. I've seen riders ride the Derby for the very first time. Stuart Elliott comes to mind, and ride it like they've ridden it 20 times, flawlessly. So you have to trust the rider, in this case Rispoli, that he's going to be calm during this, that he'll trust his horse to be good enough and ride it like it's not like any other race, but it's still a horse race. and you have to ride it the way the pace comes up, and you have to be very race aware of how fast or not you're going early. And that's the biggest challenge for Brispoli and by extension, journalism.
And no disrespect to my colleague and good friend Jerry, but it is horse racing and not jockey racing. And he's on the best horse going in, so he's got that built-in advantage. What we've all seen in the past, anybody who's been around for a while and has followed the Kentucky Derby has seen these sorts of pace scenarios, if this is indeed what develops, that I like to call a radioactive pace, where it's better to be 19th than it is to be 4th or 5th. Anything close to the pace gets contaminated. It is nowhere around at the finish. That's my primary concern. If the pace does get completely out of control, 22, 45, 109 and 4, or something like that, right? That even if journalism is 4 links, 5 links off the pace, that's too close.
Who would benefit in that scenario, Randy?
Well, Rodriguez, if journalism is too close, Rodriguez.
Yeah, in that deep closer, in that supersonic pace situation where it's, something comes from out of the clouds, it's better to be 19th early than 4th. Who's the horse that wins in that scenario, in your view?
I like Rodriguez. No.
Sovereignty.
Sovereignty. The other one-word horse.
Right.
Sovereignty. Yes.
Yeah.
And Sandman's obviously a nice horse. And people say, well, he benefited in the Arkansas Derby from a pace meltdown. Well, okay, what if he gets another pace meltdown? I mean, right?
It has been known to happen more than once. It's official selections times, boys.
Wait. With all the come from behind horses, you might have a really good horse not get a good trip. Of all the come from behind horses, it depends on the trip they get. You can't go 8 wide, and Sovereignty and still win, even though we think he's probably the most talented of the closers. So if another horse like Burnham Square or Tiz Dassett gets a rail trip, a Calvin Burrell trip, they might be the most likely winner.
How about official selections, guys? I'm going to ask you a quick one about the undercard, and we'll get you out of here. But I know obviously folks can tune into the broadcast, get your up-to-the-minute thoughts. But from where we sit here on Wednesday, who's your pick in this year's Kentucky Derby, Jerry?
Top 3 or just the winner?
Oh, do a top 3. That'd be awesome.
Journalism, Sovereignty, Burnham Square. Okay. Now, that's without Baeza.
Gotcha.
As we stand right now, Baeza's not in the race, so I'm going to go without Baeza.
Journalism, Sovereignty, Sandman.
All right.
I know there's very little imagination there, Pete, and I apologize.
That kind of year.
Fans,
I think it's that kind of year. It makes me feel good that you guys are seeing it so similarly to how we've talked about it in so many other shows. Since you're on for all those undercard races, I'd love to ask you each, just for one undercard race you're looking forward to watching. If you want to give an idea of a winner, that's fine, but there's so many good ones. I want to know which ones you're most excited about.
Well, to me, there's 3. There's the Churchill Downs Sprint. There's the Derby City Distaff Sprint for fillies and mares, and there's American Turf. All 3 of those are grade 1 supreme races.
Yeah, and we're really looking forward to all of them. Derby City Distaff, Copion is probably the horse to beat somehow, some way. She's 8-1 in the program line, which is, anyway, we all wish we could get 8-1 on Copion in that spot. In the Churchill Downs Sprint, we just spent a little time this morning with Steve Asmussen, and, you talk to trainers, and trainers can get overly impressed with their own horses, and they can get too enthusiastic and biased and all that. Steve is not that kind of guy. Steve has always given us some really good information over the years. He really likes Extra Anejo. He really thinks Extra Anejo is going to run a huge race in the Churchill Downs Sprint, right? And you've got so many good horses in there, including Nisos, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But just to keep in mind, the Extra Anejo might wind up being 5 or 6-1 in there. But he's in with a heck of a shot.
And on Friday, you have the Alishiba with Locked, Hall of Fame, and Fierceness. So, I mean, it's just an excellent weekend of racing.
I'll be shocked if Fierceness loses in there.
Get the Peacock app and just put it on and leave it on. 16 races of coverage with Randy, Jerry, and the rest of the excellent team. And do me a huge favor. But Randy, you've got something first.
One more note. Also on Friday, the La Troyenne. Okay, I've got an exacta for you. Maybe a trifecta. Maybe a trifecta. How about this for a trifecta? New country heard from. Randomized, Raging Sea, Torpedo Anna.
Randomized over Raging Sea over Torpedo Anna. That's his prediction.
Now that almost demands that I ask you about Torpedo Anna, but we're out of time. Do us a favor, subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel. You get a lot more great content like this, including, hopefully, this duo back in 2 weeks' time. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of that exclusive YouTube content, and drop us a comment. Let us know where you agree, where you think we're out to lunch. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Randy and Jerry, so much. Enjoy the Kentucky Derby on the NBC Family of Networks.